Hello everybody, Sapphire of Night here, and today we're going to go over the 10th anniversary for the Black Dawn series. Yes, I am rebranding it to Tales of Rhazie, but before we get into the video, I'm going to go over the mature warnings once more. I'm going to try to remember them off the top of my head, because I can never seem to find where I wrote down the thing. Unlike the prior videos, sorry for the clap, unlike the prior videos, which were the introduction to try to me roughly explain and me ramble in circles, and the very much rambling in circles and doing a terrible job of going over some of the lore species stuff for the Black Dawn series. I'm gonna keep referring to it because it's been 10 years of writing this series. Calling it Tales of Rhazie is gonna be hard for me to remember to say sometimes, but the new title is for the series is Tales of Rhazie. But unlike those videos, I'm actually going to 100% actually discuss all the themes that happen in it. Expect spoilers also. With that, I'm going to get into the mature warning themes. If any of those themes make you uncomfortable, please click away now. The following themes are as followed. SA, aka rape. SA is short for sexual assault, just so you guys know. I'm going to mainly be referring to SA. Graphic violence. Violence is actually the biggest thing I will describe. Murder, attempted genocide, infanticide, all that. Abuse, child abuse, spousal abuse in the sense of mateship. Cats don't fully have terms of marriage. Some other groups, as you'll see in a minute when I get into this a bit more, have actual mates where they stick with one cat, and some don't. And some it just doesn't even matter, because there's a foreign concept to them or something like that. Suicide. It's not something that's majorly brought up, and majority of the time when it is brought up, it is something that goes hand in hand with the SA, just so you're warned. It's not something that happens majorly a lot in the main series, just so you know. Expect swearing, expect homophobia, especially in regards to Cliff Valley and kind of Shadow Forest. Actually, Shadow Forest has a higher chance of it. It's just the main character that I have that is 100% gay in there doesn't really face any ramifications because nepotism. Meanwhile, Cliff Valley very much focuses on it, even though, technically speaking, with Cliff Valley's population, it shouldn't matter. Expect sexism, heavy on Toms thinking they're superior to Mollies or whatnot. Quick note, Mollies are female cats. I know queen is a more used term, but I'm using that for pregnant/nursing mothers of cats, because that fits it better, especially since the terminology usually does mean the cat has given birth. And I'm not using she-cat like Warriors does, because it offends me to no end, because why don't we call the male cats tomcats then for everything? But no, we just call them toms. So, yeah. Nepotism is a thing. Possession is also something that comes up. There is no heaven and hell, just an afterlife and a void. Black Dawn series is not really religious, so if you're expecting something religious in here, try Price of Peace. I mean, Price of Corruption. It used to be called Price of Peace, that's why I called it that. Whenever I get around to writing that, because that does have religion in it. Not that I focus on it, because I don't really care about religion. Quick note, there are heat cycles and mention of heat cycles, because cats. Cats actually have heat cycles unlike humans. And grooming exists also. I knew I was forgetting that. I had a feeling it was something I was forgetting. So expect grooming, both sexual and non-sexual. Dubious consent. And when I mean dubious consent, it's dubious that both parties were actually compliant in the idea of doing the act. As in, it's equivalent of someone pointing a gun at someone's head to do it, and they didn't want to do it, but they did it because they didn't want to get shot or get a family member shot. It's the equivalent of the dubious consent type of thing I'm going with. With that, let's get into the Black Dawn series. I mean, Tales of Rhazie. I'm gonna just keep calling it back and forth. It's fine. Totally fine. Tales of Rhazie, back when it was first book one, was planned to just be a one book series. Somehow it's developed into a 12-book series to occasionally 16, and now I'm not going to even guesstimate how many books there's going to be. With the first series going to be 5 books. So that's one of the biggest changes to the third draft. 100% there is 5 books. But the Black Dawn series was started July 19th, 2014. I finished that on November 16th, 2014. End dates and start dates after the start of the Black Dawn series are a bit iffy because I'm relying on the day I posted stuff / last edit to the Google Doc, but the issue with that is the Google Docs have occasionally gotten edits by mistake or misclicks. So making estimates is sometimes a pain, and sometimes I started the Google Doc before the book was even technically started writing. I was just putting the allegiance in, because for the most part that did not change per each book, other than me adding cats, because there was very few I had to edit out. But it ended November 16, 2014, with me writing a bonus chapter for September 7th, 2015. It followed Hazel, my main character, with purple eyes. She used to be the smallest character for the first and second draft. Third draft, I changed how runts work, so she's now the largest of her litter. So she's now a large Molly. Insert my beautiful drawing of fierce here, fierce Hazel, looking fierce. And it's a smallest character. Burning Horizon was estimated to be started around November 16th, 2014, and ended March 9th, 2015. This is where we get a time skip with our main characters that focused for the rest of the series, which is Sapphire, the daughter of Hazel, Ripple, son of Dustin and Silver, who is a Cliff Valley cat, and then Ace, who is also parentage has Cliff Valley in it, where his mother. Why do I always confuse? I feel like I'm confusing the parentage or base. Let me actually look this family tree real quick. Quick insert of family tree. That is the newest version of family tree for the third draft concept. Before I actually get into kittens, this is a concept I made. Family trees are harder to make now because of that. Ace's parents were Harper and Troy. I keep confusing Harper with Juno because Juno is his aunt, and she's more relevant than his mother was in the second draft. First draft, parentage wasn't really important for Ace. His parents were dead, and that's all that was stated, more or less. Um, Ace starts off by himself, and by book 3, he gets into where the main cast is, and yeah. I'm gonna go back to going over the family tree dates, even though I've gone over them before. Twisted Shadows was March 13th, which kind of does say that probably the date for Burning Horizons and was accurate. And it ended October 27th, 2015. And then Fading Light was November 5th through April 3rd, 2019. So Fading Light took the longest of the first draft. Second draft, things got messy. Technically speaking, the second draft is not complete. It will never fully be complete. Basically, what happened was book 4, for whatever reason, I kept getting into writer's block, and part of it was Ripple, 100% Ripple. Because what was happening was I was writing Ripple's point of view, and he's stuck in a den, so there's not much happening with him. And what kept happening was I kept going into content whenever I was writing his point of view that was for the next chapter, and that was messing up the already pre-written storyboard. Granted, the storyboard was a mess itself since I wrote all of it basically when I was writing book 1. So it was over a year and stuff was changing as I was getting to that point. but that was killing my motivation to write it. I started actually thinking about third draft changes and how some of the stuff in third draft would change, and that was affecting it. And eventually, um, probably around a week or two before the ninth anniversary, I decided, F it, Fading Light's not gonna be completed. I'll just grab the storyboard, put down what the storyboard for each remaining chapter is, and what would have happened, and what changes I had planned for it. And some of those chapters, for the final chapters, I have no idea how I was gonna pull that off. And one of them, I actually had no idea how I felt about writing anymore because of a change. One change was Moon. Let me bring up her family tree so you can see it, because post editing, I'm just putting it in. Moon's family tree. One apparently I cannot count. I thought Moon was from a litter of 5. No, she's from a litter of 6. Yes, I did name most of her siblings how they died. Isaac is the exception because he was actually named. You can kind of tell that I named it. Moon backstory is 100% based off Abraham's daughter, and Moon kills Isaac in second draft. Third draft, I'm debating, since I do have time to debate it, if Isaac will be alive in the third draft. I don't know yet. Khan and Moon are still gonna have their not four. I still can't count. 5 kittens. Canonly, Moon's a terrible mother. Also, Moon didn't care about her kids. She only had them because she was like, okay, other cats feel happy when they have kittens. Maybe I'll feel some sort of joy from having them. And then she just felt nothing for them. She had to be reminded to nurse them and all that. She just wasn't meant for motherhood. Meanwhile, Khan, who is 100% going to be renamed correctly to Blake, and then Khan will be Blake in the next draft. I am swapping their names. It's something I kept telling myself I was going to do, and I'm going to do it because, fun fact, Khan was taken from Bleach, and Blake means black. Khan in the second draft is a black tabby, and Blake is a ginger cat because he's Sven's brother. So I am swapping that 100%. Sure, that's gonna might cause confusion. And me mentioning them might cause a little bit confusion, but yeah. So I do have cats who are not meant for motherhood, but one of the things that was gonna happen was in book 4 was Moon was gonna die, and how it was gonna happen was Ripple saw Sapphire in danger. He went to distract Moon by attacking Moon, so Sapphire can get back on her foot and defend herself. And Moon was gonna go into shock because Sapphire would blind her. And then Ripple would mercilessly kill her, and then only after the fact realize she was a queen. Because she was so coated in blood and the scent of blood that he didn't pick up the fainted scent of milk that was fading away because her kids by that point would be weaned. A second draft change that was starting to develop for the third draft was Con/Blake, aka the Black Tabby, the father of Moon's kids. I decided he actually was more forceful about the whole situation in regards to Hazel. Like, how I'm gonna play it off as, most of the mollies he ran into didn't fight back and they just went silent when it happened. And he didn't realize what he was doing wrong, and he was being told by his quote unquote friends that what he was doing is correct. And when Hazel reacted the way she does in the second draft, and especially how she reacts in the third draft, he realized that, oh shit, this is 100% wrong. And while it doesn't fix that he's done wrong, he at least never does that, forces himself on the count again. It also doesn't help he's part of the Shadow Forest, and third draft Shadow Forest, well, you'll see. Actually, maybe I'll get into that now. A quick third draft change is Shadow Forest. The rights of Molly's being allowed to not have kits is precarious, especially if you were ranked a caretaker. I'll get that into that part for caretakers when I actually go into the ranking system. But they're more. It's harder for mollies to not be jumped because of how Kabuto ran things with Jack. Especially when Jack took over in Kabuto's absence, and then when Slade got there, it got solidified because those two fed off each other in their terrible discretions. Which does mean Slade 100% is in a toxic relationship with Claire. So, quick thing about the third draft for Claire and Slade. First draft, I didn't know the standing for them. I clearly didn't know what the fuck I was doing for writing it. I couldn't make up my mind if it was abusive or not. And in a sense, it kind of comes off as both Hazel and Claire didn't fully acknowledge that Slade was abusive to them because they are victims of Slade's abuse. Meanwhile, Hawk acknowledged it, even though Hawk didn't deal with Slade that long. Second draft, I actually never fully got to go into it. Hazel outright hates her father. Stone didn't like his father and escaped him. Hawk ran away before things got too bad for him. And the chapter I actually was excited to write was the one I gave up on because Ripple point of view. Even though Ripple point of view wasn't in the point of view I needed to write first, it was Claire's point of view. Claire was gonna get into argument with Mink, her brother, and she'll admit that she knew the relationship wasn't healthy, but she felt some weird attraction to him, and she mainly just stuck around and acted like everything was fine for her kits. And only for her kits. She loved her kits and didn't fully love Slade, and Slade just liked her for the idea of having many kits with her. And she doesn't fully understand how she feels after Slade's death in book 3 because of how everything went down. Second draft is a mess in the sense of that because a lot of stuff was changing as I was getting to book 4, and then I was getting hit with the third draft thoughts and Ripple point of view messing me up. But third draft how was basically going not third draft second draft how that one was basically going to end was, yes, there was going to be a big battle. Loki got dealt with. He's not dead. He got chased out by River Valley. Perverted trio, only Khan survived because Khan actually sided with the River Valley cats to help drive out the faction cats, and he nearly died for it. And he gets to go back and raise his kids alone in Shadow Force, and make sure they are raised properly to not do his mistakes. He makes sure they know to not do his mistakes. That was that part of the ending for River Valley. But how the second draft was gonna end for the big battle with the main characters. After actually, Claire doesn't even fight Flint in the second draft. Originally she was, but I realized it made no sense. She's a healer. Her kits are younger than the rest of the kits that mostly were born at that point. Plus, Leaf would have, who was gonna be meant to be not Leaf, it's Fern. This is what happens when you have over 300 characters. Fern, who was expecting Soot's kits, was going to have her kits very soon, or right before the battle. So those are very young, and it's winter, so Claire probably would want to keep an eye on those kittens to make sure they're healthy on that. Alfred and fuck, what's his name? Oh yes, Ashura. Ashura would have done basically more or less the same thing, except Shadow Knight wouldn't be there. I don't think Shadow Knight wouldn't be involved with the whole thing with the kids. Originally Shadow Knight was to go to Shadow Force and attempt to kill Shard and get killed by Dahlia, but that changed. Shadow Knight actually is at the Cliff of Thy Dawn in this battle. He's just not right there where the kits are. That was Alfred and Ashura still, and they were just stopping Shadow Force cats. Not Shadow Force cats. They're stopping Loki's faction. Oh my god, my brain is twisted. Ugh. Loki's cats from stealing the queens and kits. Um, I'll get into Shadowrun in a bit. But basically what happened is Silk got killed, Flint's almost dead, and Ripple would lead the youngsters to stop the fight. He would tell them to stop because Juan Ripple realized, despite being outnumbered by the faction cats, they had killed at least half the faction cats by then, or half of them had run off, or a mixture of that, and he ordered them to stop the fight. And him and the youngsters were moved protectively in front of Soot's corpse, because Soot would get killed still. Not by Flint, but by one of the faction cat rogues. Not rogues. Faction cats are not rogues, even though they act like rogues. And the very badly injured Flint, who's dying. Flint's kits, who were forced into the fight because Loki was holding threats over Shard's life if he didn't bring them, would move in front of Flint protectively next to their father, Ice being right next to her father, because she's very much a father's daughter kind of girl. She's very feisty and likes her parents very much. But Ripple would tell the faction cats to stop, and the cat who was in charge argued back, and Ripple would signal for that cat to get attacked when that cat charges at him, and Leaf and Sapphire and Maple together would swarm him and kill him instantly. And that's when the cats started taking that seriously and would back off. Because they realized, oh fuck, the youngest members, some of who are really injured, are going to slaughter us one by one if we continue fighting. So they backed off, fled to Shadow Forest. Shard basically kicks them out immediately. The cats who were at the Shadow Forest already, because they have already fled. No, actually no. I'm trying to think of what happens. I'm confusing myself. Basically what happens is the faction cats get fully driven out when the rest of the Shadow Forest cats get back from Glypholite on. Brick still becomes leader, and then Allie is his vice. And Shard ran away during the fight, sensing Flint's death, with Scout chasing after her. So, kind of overturning, in a sense, to Ice, Cobra, and... Yeah, it'd be Ice and Cobra, because their draft kits don't exist yet. But this series has devolved as time went on. Second draft, I do think, is a bit of a mess. It's more cleanly written than the first draft, but it's a mess because the storyboard progressed beyond itself because I wrote all of it at once, which I probably shouldn't have done. What I should have done is wrote all book one's storyboard as a rough outline. After I got that done, checked what points have changed, did book two, proceed. That's how I should have done it. And I might do that. I might do that for once I get to book 2 through 5. Because book 1 of the third draft, Tainted Skies, Skies. Tainted Skies is a prequel book, in a sense. It's going over all the prequel points that I think is very important to read. Like, if people really don't want to see the prequel content to see what leads up to all the stuff, sure, skip it. But I just think a lot of that is very important. It's going to be what I'm going to be writing once I finish Corrupted Desires. Because, yes, Corrupted Desires I'm still writing. I finished up to chapter 3, so I'm halfway done. It's only 10 chapters. That counts prologue and epilogue. I am going to finish that. It's just going to be slow work for me. I'm going to try to get done before the end of July. I do feel better knowing that I have till early September to get it exported and scheduled on Wattpad. I do feel slightly better about that now, since I've been focusing on third draft stuff. For legit, all year I've been working on the one-shots for the second draft with me slowing down recently. Because realizing I want to write the stuff before that too. So I have most of the ending bit of Tainted Skis, technically speaking, written out. I just need to go in more detail for it. But I'm going to be going over the different arcs in Tainted Skis. I'm going to go over the era of Duke, how Izzy's power broke the world. I'm not going to go over the Guardians of the Meteor stuff. That'll be its own series if I actually write it. That might be a short side story or something. I don't know. But I allude to it in the prologue. But I start off with Duke. I end with Duke's era. And then I go into Shattering the Night a bit. I vaguely go into Corrupted Desires. I'm going to reference a few points, mostly what Tansy did, because that's a whole thing. And if you're wondering who Tansy is, she's the visionary that killed Lilac. Wait, not Lilac, Lavender. I'm sorry, they're similar in name. And had a huge beef with Shattered Knight. I'm not going to go into too much detail with stuff in regards to Ava and Ishel, because that's not relevant, and I'm still debating how I want to change that for the third draft. Basically, I'm debating if I want to change it so Ishel did not die and Ava actually has a proper shadow form or not. But that's a debate for probably next year or something. I don't know. And then after that, I'm gonna go into a bit of what happens with Gale and his aunt. Maybe I don't know how much of that I'm gonna go into. That might be just a small short thing where, like Corrupted Desires, I go into a bit of it, but not the entire thing. Followed by that, I'm gonna go into some of the history of Cliff Valley in the Shadow Forest. Maybe I'm not sure how much of the Shadow Forest I'll go into, but Cliff Valley I do need to go into. I need to explain the homophobia thing for Cliff Valley, how that came to be. Because I know Shadow Knight was not alive during that point, but he knows what happened. Basically, what happened was two Mollies were very much lesbians for each other, were interested. The leader at the time was a Tom, very smitten for one of the lesbians, and basically enforced something. He somehow threatened the lesbian he was in love with to mate with him, or something bad would happen to her lesbian lover. And somehow that proceeds into continuing for generations onwards to the current plot line, where if you're caught and if you're both, it's only if it's gay and Toms that it will usually result in a Tom getting exiled or having to fight each other to the death. If it's Mollies, they'll separate them and force them to have kittens. That's basically what usually happens for the Mollies, sadly. Because Cliff Valley is sexist for most of their leaders. Falcon just happens to be the worst of it. Eagle wasn't great, but we don't get to see much of his leadership because he's old man by the time we see him. He had kids late in life. And then I might go over a few other random points. One point I am going to go over is actually the founding, and I'm excited for that because then I can go over the Vengeful Mother, aka Nameless, and how things actually proceeded. Because what the story says versus what actually happened is different. The story says she murdered Luna and Luna's kits and badly injured Comet, and it's debatable if Aurora was actually Luna's kit. The actual story of it is Nameless only killed Salus and the pregnant Luna and badly injured Comet. One of Luna's sons was murdered by the groupmates because they were salty that he was gay, and the other one was killed by her Nameless's mate, the Cursed Tom, who does not at this time have a name. I probably need to give him a name. I might give him a name. I don't know. And then at some point, it's going to develop into the era of Kabuto. which starts with the Shadow Forest. I need to figure out where Cliff Valley and River Valley's timeline stuff goes in for there. I'm gonna write that out probably before I try to merge the story into one. So that'll be a fun project to do. Because I am really trying to be writing it chronological, which means some of the stuff I have is gonna be a bit funky of how I write it for chapters, but that's fine. But basically, how the original prologue for the second draft is the epilogue now. The birth of Hazel and her siblings is the epilogue with an extension. Shadow Knight being chosen as a healer apprentice. How that is gonna be, that's gonna be part of the epilogue, and that's gonna be for one reason alone. There is an alternative version, which I'll write probably after I got most of book 1 done, where Shadow Knight being chosen required Anik, the elderly visionary of of Cliff Valley, to reveal that Claire lived and she has Slade's kits, and in that AU, Slade sells stone to Falcon. 100% that's what happens, basically. They make an arrangement where occasionally Shadow Force will get some mollies to breed with and keep those kittens, but not keep the molly. And the Shadow Force will occasionally give up some of their youngsters to Cliff Valley. And the reason why that AU is not going to be the main story one, as far as I'm concerned, is I'm having trouble seeing where it would go after book 1, because it's just going to stagger with all the groups trying to panic grow kittens because they're expecting a fight coming. And I need to figure out how that's going to go. Hence why that's AU. I'm still debating, though, if Stone ends up in a situation where he becomes captive of Cliff Valley. That is something I'm debating. So basically, anything can and will change, because it's going to be a while before I even write book 1. Or what was book 1, aka Black Dawn. But okay. I think I put it off long enough. I think I'm going to go over the little bit of the groups I've made. Because I did do that. I'm going to start off with Cliff Dawn because... Actually, no, that's a lie. I'm starting off with Strays and Rogues. Basically, this is stuff for the Legions. I'll actually put screenshots of the Legions in here. Boom. Strays. Only first for book 1 is my mental note. Felines outside of the groups of power. If rogues, they will be listed as such. Basically, they're cats that don't belong in any group's power. Strays just wander and do their own thing. Sometimes they form little family groups. Rogues, on the other hand, are noted as rogues because they're usually either murderers, rapists, or both. Kit thieves don't count unless it's legit. When I mean kit thieves, I mean Molly's kidnapping other Molly's kits. Not the other way. Where groups of strays or not strays, groups of rogues are stealing kittens to add to their army, because there are groups of rogues. I think I've made a note in one of the one shots I wrote that the rogue groups like to call themselves colonies when they're not. So there'll always be like 2 names, like for instance, the Eastern Rogues, which is named by the Cliff of the Dawn cats. Eastern Rogues refer to themselves as Haven Colony. So colonies are determined by rogues that are groups of rogues, but they refuse to acknowledge the fact that they're rogues. And rogue groups are mainly known for kit stealing, kidnapping, rape, and murder. Okay, now on to Cliff Dawn, which we pretty much always listed first. For at least the first series. Second series, if it still remains focused with River being the main character, unless that something changes. That'll be River Valley listed first. Divide Dawn, its description is cats of a great cliff, a forest, and field. The ranks are placed with youngest to oldest in whatever category. Leader is the cat in charge. Vice is second command and future leader. Quick note about the vices and leaders of the Divide Dawn. There can and will be multiple. Healers are doctors, basically, and adults are those above an 18-month year or 18 moon year, aka the year for the book series, because 18 months takes a year for this series. Youngsters are those between 4 to 18 months. Granted, those are young adults can be referred to as a group of youngsters if there's a huge group of them and they're under a year old and they work well together and they're not being acknowledged next to the younger counterparts. Caretakers are permanent queens, aka cats who will have as many litters as possible that is safely healthy for them. Most Mollies can only do 2 a year and not 3 or 4. 4 is weird because actually no, 4 is not weird. It's 5. It's weird. It's 16. Yeah, because cat pregnancies in this series takes 4 months. So 4 is the maximum. You shouldn't be able to do 5 unless actually, yeah, 5 is impossible. Wait, no, 5 isn't impossible. 5 means you had a litter within the first 2 months of the year and immediately had kids again and again. But that would be very unhealthy. Most cats only have a maximum of 3 litters per year. Or, on average, most cats have 1 litter a year. Some cats can handle it well, some cats cannot. A change I have made is each Molly is going to have a maximum. And if they do go above the maximum, they're dead. And the max cats I'm allowing is 10 kittens per litter. Because one, that's a lot of characters. I did look up what the world record was, and that was 19. And my thoughts were, F no. I'm not making that many per litter. That's a bit much. And if you want to know who caused me to look up the world record, because I wanted them to have a max litter of kittens, it's Hawk. 100% it's Hawk. Caretaker in Cliff of Dawn helps take care of queens and kits. If they know a bit about healing or herbs, they will also help out the healer as well. They're also, if they're not a permanent queen, expected help out with hunting or patrolling on occasion. But usually when they're doing that, they're either hunting or helping grabbing moss and bedding, usually is what's happening. Queens are Molly's expecting or nursing kittens. They can only be female because I have no trans characters in the Black Dawn series. I'm going to keep trans characters to humanoids and not felines. Kittens are newborns through 4 months old. Elders are 8 plus. Cats are 8+ years or retired because a thing in the Black Dawn series is, especially in for most cases, it's very rare, especially in the era the Black Dawn series takes place, for elders to exist. I might up it from 8+ years to be more accurate because I think I'm going to put it at 20 or 25 or something. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think 25 I'll put as the usual max. Maybe there's a rare cat who has lived 30, cough, cough, Anik. But usually at 25 is when cats start degrading faster than their body can recover with basic needs. So I might up that to like 16 cats that are 16 plus. But in Cliff of the Dawn, 8+ years, maybe I'll make it so the Cliff of the Dawn is like 10 years. And you're considered, you could be an elder if you wish. But by the time we're like 16, you are definitely an elder. They're retired, they're rare to have, and they're not expected to do anything, maybe share some elder wisdom or help them figure out disputes. The group tag is of thy field, because if you notice the older rest from the second draft on my DeviantArt, which will be linked in the description, reference would say of blah blah blah. Of shadows would be twisted shadows. Of forest would be shadow forest. Of thy cliff would be cliff valley. Of thy field is cliff of thy dawn. Of thy river is river valley. But the info is the founder was a Molly named Luna, and her mate Salis was a healer before he joined the groups of power even being formed. Unlike the rest of the groups, this one occasionally will have more than one leader and or vice. This is due to a few instances where they ended up leaderless early in the group's history. It happens repeatedly. Fun fact, it happens in Shattering the Night, which I think might have been one of the instances where immediately right after they had multiple leaders and vices. After that, I think it probably happened a few times before Shattering the Night where they ended up leaderless as well. Also, they are the only known group to be occasionally without a healer. Many believe this is a side effect of the group nearly collapsing because of the Vengeful Mother, since the other groups lost their founders early on and their respective vice or healer. While more welcoming to bringing in or breeding with local strays the strays, they for generations have had issues with a group dubbed the Eastern Rogues, both raping and murdering their members. Quick note on the healer thing. That probably was also based on the fact that when writing this, Shadow had at this point decided to be killed. By the time I actually got to Aftermath, which is after, actually not even Aftermath, it was before that, it was Claire's Grief, which deals with Claire having to deal with Slade and then bear her first litter. Shadow originally was going to die, I changed my mind. But I do think it does happen still occasionally in the group where they're healerless. Shadow, even though she's gonna live, she's now blinded in one eye, and she does have, especially in winter, it is painful for her to move around because of her injuries. And it's a while before she gets any healers that come after. With the first healers being Timber, a son of Raven and Thorn, and then the other kid who becomes a healer is Zinnia, who is the daughter of Thistle and Hazel. She's originally the second litter, according to first and second draft. She's gonna become the third litter. Hello, everybody. I'm back. Hello, everybody. If I repeat something, it's because I went away for like 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours to go do something else that was needed for. But I do remember where we left off. I don't know if I finished talking about the Clip of Light on, but that's also quick note. That's where most of our main characters live, and will be the main story mostly be taking place. Not the entirety, but most of it. Okay, I'm gonna move on to River Valley for their descriptions. River Valley, potentially going to be listed first in the second series. That depends on main characters and if I change how I plan out the plot to go. It could be the third series, for all I know at this point. It could change. The area is noted as cats in a more water-based area, streams, rivers, swamp. I say rivers, but there's like one main river. Technically speaking, there's two that combine each other: swamp and ponds. Um, Fun fact: the swamp does exist. I need to make a map at some point. Maybe that'll be a future video where I make a map. There is a swamp that goes along the back of both River Valley and the Shadow Forest. It's called the Shared Swamp. Strays, technically speaking, mostly have access to it. And how they do their ranks is oldest to youngest, sorted by hunting preference. The leader is the cat in charge, but the rule is they have to be of Minnow's bloodline, aka their second leader. If there is a cat that is not of the second of Minnow's bloodline, it has to be temporary. Otherwise, there's a good chance they'll end up dead. There seems to be some weird curse or something going on with that. I'm not gonna get too much into that much. In the series, as far as I know at this point, that could change. The device is temporary if the leader has no kits or immediate kin that's alive. And the moment the leader has kits, which is required if they have no kin to have kits themselves. They will be they will become vice after. If there's only one kit, it's the firstborn. It has a technically speaking, it's a tendency to be the firstborn, but that's not always the case. The leader gets to choose which of their kits or nieces or nephews become, or grandkids become their vice. Um, Usually though, if they have to have a temporary vice, it usually is of Elisa, which is Minnow's aunt from her mother's side. Bloodline will be the temporary vice, or someone that is guaranteed to do it. There have been cases, quote unquote, in history that apparently some leader was like, no, I'm gonna have someone who's not my bloodline become next leader, and that deputy immediately chose someone of that leader's bloodline to succeed them, and might have even, how do I say this? Made sure they succeeded them, or even stepped down immediately after. Um, there are lore keepers, which are cats who keep track of the history. Usually, they are descendants of Alicia. Healers are cat doctors as normal. Fishers are cats who prefer or are better at fishing. They must be able to swim. Yes, there are cats in River Valley that cannot swim. Cough, cough, cloud. He just never could understand the concept of how to swim. His sister figured it out though. Dry paws who are cats who hunt on land. Prey hunt land prey like birds, mice. And may or may not be incapable of swimming or just bad at it. Some cats just prefer it. Fun fact, Rain, who actually will get to be alive in the third draft, unlike the first and second draft. She is technically speaking, she was a dry paw. She can swim just fine, fish just fine. She just prefers hunting on land. Unlike Cyclopodon and like most of the groups, there actually is a proper ranking for youngsters. Apprentices. These cats are 7 to 8 moons. I don't know why they start moon late. I think the in between moon is to help teach them how to swim. Um, these cats between 7 to 8 moons train and learn if they can swim in the river or not. Young helpers are youngsters 4 to 7 moons. Help around camp, not allowed to swim with anything that has a strong current. AKA, they're only allowed to do strings when it's guaranteed it's not gonna go hard. I think that they're the only group of helpers. Caretakers are help take care of and give basic training to kids 2 to 7 months old. They also keep camp fortified and be a perma queen. I just realized some of these rankings might have a different name, or I might have added a different ranking. I'll look that over in a minute after I'm done with this. Queens are mollies that are expecting or nursing kits as per normal. Kittens, aka kittens, are newborn kittens that are under 4 months old. Elders, same thing as Light On, they're just elderly. I'll figure out the actual ages later at some point when I actually start making elder characters, because that is something I need to do for all but one of the groups. One group, there's no way they can have elders because they were slaughtered. Cough, cough, Shadow Forest. The group tag, as I stated earlier, was Uplight River. The info is the group founder was the Tom named of Tiger. His sister was Luna. They were littermates, and he was the first leader to die. He died of heartbreak. It is 100% confirmed he died of heartbreak. His mate got either murdered or driven out. I haven't decided yet. I'll figure that out by the time I get to the founding arc, which will take me a bit. Not extremely a bit, but still. Depends how long it takes to get through Duke's arc. But his mate died or was driven out along with 3 of his 4 kittens, which were all daughters. Was it, or was it 3? I don't remember. I need to look at his family tree for that. But he died of heartbreak. River Valley was originally the largest of the groups until his mate was driven out along. I think it was driven out. Is the thing I'm gonna keep with. First and second draft, she was driven out. I was considering killing her, but I think it'd be better if I just drove her out, or maybe she comes to her injuries after being chased out. I don't know. But it was the largest of the groups until its own members turned on against each other, and it believed that Tiger's mate was using him. His mate, fun fact, was a visionary. She can see the future, so they thought she was using what she could see in the future to manipulate him. Since the group has never been larger, their type of ranking is to know what type of hunter they are and to mark those who just can't grasp the abilities or just don't like swimming. No, all River Valley cats are fluffy who don't have outsider blood. Technically speaking, there is only one canon River Valley cat that is not fluffy and has the standard, and that is Boulder. He has a standard pal. He was found as a newborn with his mother deceased. He's the only one not fluffy. Moving on, the Shadow Forest. No, most of the ranking and treatment of the group depends on the leader, which is very true. Quick note about Shadow Forest. I was off and on debating about them being cursed to only have one leader without issues. That was a thing that you guys can see in the second draft versions, especially the one shots where I actually go into that a bit. I have since decided that makes things too much complicated, and thus that's no longer a thing. They're no longer cursed. The ranking system potentially was different before Slade/Kabuto, more so Kabuto than Slade. The Shadow Forest is a deep forest with a river on the eastern border and a marsh on the western border. Ranks oldest to youngest per normal. Elders do not exist during Slade's time or Kabuto's time because Kabuto killed them all. And that means there's no cats old enough to be considered an elder. Leader is the cat in charge. They're allowed to do anything they want. Second command. They potentially will be leader one day, least likely to be punished if they question the leader. Healer is cat doctors per normal, like all groups, expected to know who's related to who. Patrollers are cats like more likely to patrol, scout, and defend the territory. Yeah, I think I changed some of the stuff in this. Hunters, cats more likely to focus on feeding the group. Yeah, I think I changed one thing to ranger or added an extra group. Yeah, I changed patrollers to rangers. As I said, hunters are more likely to focus on feeding the group. A quick extra note about patrollers under, not patrollers, rangers under Kabuto's reign. They are expected to trick or force cats to join the group, preferably mollies or young kits. Toms are okay, but they want to extend out that bloodline because a lot of it was slaughtered out under Kabuto. Caretakers, same expectations if they are Tom. Help with hunting, assisting the healers. Mollies are expected to be perma queens, and they don't get a choice on the matter. That was decided by Kabuto at the end of Mute Trauma remake. About almost a year into Kabuto's reign, he made that decision. Not a year. A little over half a year, I think. I think it's around an actual year for Earth time, actually, if I'm remembering correctly the timeline. Toms in this position are also most definitely expected to help find random cats to join the group when out of camp under Slade's rule. Under Kabuto and then Jack's reign, they were heavily abused. Slade's, they're less physically abused in the sense of actually being attacked with teeth and claws, but still essayed. Queens are Molly's expecting or nursing as per normal. Kittens are accounted as kittens up to 3 months for some reason. I think that's because of not Shattered. I think that is because of Kabuto. No, that's from Slade. I'm sorry. It's, it's sometimes hard for me to remember this. Rookies are those in training, 3 to 18 months of age. Group tag is of Thy Forest. The founder was a Tom named Slade, hence why when I refer to Slade as Slade GM, aka antagonist Slade, main character Hazel's father, Claire's mate as GM is because of that. Slade SF is the founder. So yeah, there is some slight confusion might cause with that when I'm speaking of it. I'll try to keep that in mind. But yeah, under Slade's reign is Slade GM. Slade SF was known to have a beef with someone dubbed the Cursed Tom. As I mentioned earlier, I don't have a name for him yet. He's gonna get a name at some point, probably. And he dragged the other leaders into the issue and caused that cat to get him and his bloodline cursed. At one point in the canon, the group was cursed by the Vengeful Mother. I have since then decided, fuck that, nope. But the group at one point thought they might have got cursed because Slade SF did end up dead when his mate was out on a walk when she ended up kidding early and got attacked by a fox, and both him, his mate, and at least one of the kittens were killed. But the bloodline does live on because Alfred, my precious boy, is descendant of that. Not, and he did have a Slade SF did have a fling with Alice, the founder of Cliff Valley, but that's a whole other thing. Kabuto did when he came in and took over, he killed basically everybody more or less. A small handful was left with a bunch of mid-range adults, mostly mollies. Only 2 cats were technically speaking not fully grown. One was about 12 or so moons old, and the other one was a newborn. The rest were already adults. So a lot of cats were slaughtered. And then Jack temporarily held leadership until Kabuto came back with Slade, GM, and then Jack became vice. Slade GM, also quick to note, was the last member born to the Grandflower Meadow. Grandflower Meadow, that group is very much unknown because it got destroyed. and we literally will see very little of it, as in it's a group of visionaries. Most of them were visionaries. They knew how to hunt. They weren't big on learning how to fight. That's part of their downfall. Slade GM is the survivor of it, so his bloodline are the less um of Reed's bloodline. And now Cliff Valley. Cliff Valley is the largest group after book yeah, is the largest group after River Valley had its split, and has remained the largest group. Um, Cliff Valley, quick note, will collapse temporarily. Um, I'm still debating if I want that to be larger than whatever the smallest group is, or have it smaller, because it's gonna, either way, it's going to end up still becoming the largest group, no matter how we deal with things. But it's a sandy gray cliff, think Grand Canyon colors. Their ranking is once again oldest youngest. High ranks and low ranks exist in the thing, so there is a divide. I'm not gonna make any low rank exist unless they're major, and then they'll just be listed wherever they're in the age group if they're enlisted in the legions. These ranking system is also written down for um my sanity of characters, so I don't get to see the high rank and low rank, because low ranks, they're just a random. Because Lowly's that big. Leaders that count in charge can be risky if using authority. I'll get into that. Vice becomes leader after leader unless a challenger challenges the leader for their leadership, and then that cat might even lose their rank of vice and not remain vice. Healer, cat doctor, keeps track of bloodlines, expected to hunt in winter and know the basics of fighting. And they're also supposed to help access high-ranking trainees, the ones with high potential, and are more likely also to make sure that the ones they want for challengers, the cats who will be able to challenge leadership, they're more likely to be in charge of making sure those cats are well trained to fight. Fighters primarily focus on battle skills. Hunters primarily focus on hunting skills, as in they barely know how to fight. Same thing for hunting for fighters. They barely know how to hunt. They know the bare minimum. Scouts, they're trackers. Their fighting level tends to be, I swat you in the face, let me go so I can flee for my life. And they're also expected to hunt. Trainees are cats 5 to 8 moons old, 18 months old, learning their future ranks. Sometimes they can finish early or be counted for their future rank even if training is incomplete. Like, for instance, second draft, Shadow Knight, and Dustin were both counted as fighters, even though their training wouldn't have been completed by time the fall happened. Caretakers, they assist healers, help queens, watch and teach kids the basics. And they're supposed to help determine what rank a kid will be. Um, Leaders can supersede that and decide, F it, this cat is gonna be this. Healers can also supersede if they really want someone to be a particular rank. It can be particularly in a healing rank, which can cause squabbling between the leader and healer. Queens are Molly's nursing or expecting. Kittens are newborns to 5 months old. Elders are retired from their normal rank. They're actually also expected to make sure. Elders are also supposed to give input on what cat they think will be good for what training. This group will also have the least amount of training, not training, bleh, least amount of elders after the fall, because those old bones can only run so fast. And if they survive, they're more likely a younger end of elder. Group tag is up by Cliff. Info: the founder was a Molly named Alice. Since the splitting of River Valley, yes, her group has been the largest due to their consistent breeding. I'll get into breeding in a bit. It said you can judge how well the group feels about their leader from the amount of queens. No, due to a jealous leader from the group, it doesn't really same-sex couples, despite how large the group is. AKA, they should be allowing it because there's so many cats that not everyone knows who everyone is. They just know who the high rankings are, basically off the top of their heads. Quick note: each group does have a season for breeding. Shadow Forest is spring, summer is Cliff Valley, fall is Cliff of Idon, and winter goes to River Valley. That's the time they do the most breeding or slash have the most cats expecting kits. So, and an example for Cliff Valley, because they're ones who really do breed year round constantly. Not Shadow Force. Cliff Valley under Falcon's rule had at least 20 or so queens at a time, and then by the time the fall happened, it was down to like 5 or 6 at most, and most of those were a group of friends slash family members deciding they wanted to raise kittens together as a group. Also, queens do have a higher role in kitten naming, and if the tom gets anything to do with it. Cliff Valley is strange in the sense of it's the one group that's just like, we don't care about mateship. You want to label multiple toms, that's fine. Multiple mollies want to label the same tom, that's fine. Multiple large couples, sure, that's fine. Mateship, what's that? Leadership is usually expected to have mateship and be strict with it. Falcon was not strict with it. Also, Falcon is a case of grooming because he was at least 3 or 4 years old, and he mated with someone who was not even a year old, which resulted in some characters. Hello everybody, post-editing Sapphire of Night here. Quick 2 things. First off, I don't think I made it very clear, but healers in all groups are expected to know the lineage of everybody. That is something that's universal. The permanent queen thing is kind of universal, it's just not in all groups. It's expected to be forced upon. In half the groups, it's a choice, half the groups, it's not. Such things might change with leadership. Usually with leadership. In Cliff Valley, technically speaking, I think I implied that it's always perma queen, but that's on the leader's discretion if, for Cliff Valley in particular, and only Cliff Valley, if a Molly is expected to be a permanent queen upon giving their ranking. Because there are some Mollies who will end up caretakers and they're not permanent queens. Technically speaking. I say this knowing that in one part of canon, I'm pretty sure after the fault there's only one caretaker, which means those said caretakers were either killed, re-ranked, or it's after the fall of Cliff Valley, unless plans change, which they can. Everything's up for debate, more or less, for what I may or may not change. The other thing is, as you notice, this is labeled part 1 of Tales of Rhazie for the 10th anniversary. Part 2 is 4.5 hours long, and this is taking me upward of an estimated 20 hours to edit, and when I mean edit, it's just me doing the cutting audio and placing it with a little bit of it being dragging pictures along. This is not even counting me putting the B footage, aka the speed paint of me drawing the comic cover. I think it's the comic cover. It might actually be the series, not the series. It might be actually the book cover. I'm not exactly looking at the image when I make this recording, so I could be wrong on that. This is for the anniversary, and I have other videos I need to get out. So yeah, I'm kind of pushing to get videos done. So that's part of the reason why I chose to split, because it's taking me way too long to edit this one video. Like, if I had gotten this video done ahead of time, I probably would not be pushing so hard on the idea of split. It's also just frustrating that openshot's constantly freezing up on me. At one point, I had a slight pay attention of this. I gone up 9 minutes, and it had been about 2.5 hours. And that's because it kept freezing up when I was cutting. A little bit of it is it's freezing up when I'm trying to pause and play it, and if it's freezing up when it's playing, I can't pause it, which means I have to go back, which is a whole process. Fun fact, when editing the picture part where I'm going over the rankings, specifically when I'm talking about the Shadow Forest, it did that to the same section twice. So I had to go back 3 times, and then a 4th time because one of the times when it was lagging out, it accidentally caused me to move the picture, and I can't drag the image backwards. I don't know why I can't drag the image backwards for making it go the length backwards. So I had to drag the image back and then drag the length of it forward, which took up more time. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. I might try posting some clips of the 4.5 hour thing of Black Dawn, because I did some random little bits of singing, and I haven't really sang in about 8 years, so not 8 years. I sang in choir for 8 years during high school, and then I haven't really sang since, and it's not been 8 years, I don't think. But basically, I want to put those clips out just as random little clips of me singing about looking up descriptions. And I'm sorry for the Discord pings. I keep forgetting to turn it off when I'm doing the solo audio edit for this last clip of the video before I put in the B footage. But I might put some of those out. Hopefully this will not be an issue eventually. Hopefully when I actually eventually will get a desktop, because this video has really pushed me to the thought of it's probably partially on my laptop and not just openshot. So the thoughts of the matter is, once I get a desktop, I need to get myself a tablet for Fire Alpaca, and then I will get myself DaVinci Resolve and look up tutorials every time I need a tutorial to look at something, because if I don't remember something. Because that's the game plan, so hopefully eventually this will not be an issue for longer videos. Because it's kind of ridiculous it's taking me that long when all I'm doing is plopping a picture on and then making the length of it go longer than 10 seconds. And me cutting audio, making the whole thing freeze up for at least a minute, if not longer. And the big issue I have with openshot is the waveform. I think it, or is it the waveform? I'm pretty sure it's the waveform. Well, I didn't see this as an issue on the anniversary video. The rest of my videos when I'm editing, the waveform does not show up for the entire video at all. Usually, if I'm lucky, it's halfway through. One time I turned it on, it was not even done processing for when I walked away for a half hour while I was waiting for it to load. So, because I had to go do something else briefly. Came back, it's not done. Within a minute or two after that, it's finally done loading, and then the waveform's not even there. So that's annoying, and I like to see the waveform because it makes it easier to cut. But that's all beside the point. The next video that'll come up today will be, why am I struggling? It'll be Season 2, Episode 7 of The Realms. It's going to explain why The Realms kinda died off on second season. So I think we could have been fine pushing it for 10 episodes, but I was so done with Season 2 because of what happened, and that gets brought up in Episode 7, what basically killed that. But I am motivated for Season 3. We only have about 4 episodes, and I promise you, I've been building a bridge off cam for Season 3, so there's that. But we're gonna make progress. I'm trying to push Steven, aka Daedra, to do more stuff on camera that even if it is a bit boring, because it's gonna be about a year's length of recording for Season 3, simply because there's no update until next June, as far as I know. Well, this big update that affects the world. So unless we want to stagger it after I kind of slightly catch this up, that's beside the point, I guess. But if you want to see more of the Black Dawn series or Tales of Rhazie, I am going to refer to it as both. It's been 10 years. Changing the title is 100% because of Book 1, which is Black Dawn, is no longer Book 1, it's now Book 2. Because I really want that prequel content in there. And so, go to my DeviantArt if you want all the arts. And I guess first draft and a little bit of second draft written form. I don't like how DeviantArt changed the writing shit. Or stash writer. So that's why I'm primarily posting writing on Wattpad. There's a small hope that it will gain attention on Wattpad eventually, and I can use it as a way to get the series published eventually. That is a hope. I'm gonna be posting our comic starting today at 9 a.m. Before this might be before this video comes out. I don't know what time I'm scheduling it. It's sometime before 5 p.m. EST. But yeah. What else? The writing for second draft is pretty much completed because it's dead to me. It's legit dead to me. Corrupted Desires and maybe one or two one-shots that I really think I should put in there because they'd be nice context. But definitely Corrupted Desires are the only things that are going to be left, so 3 things at most, 1 thing at minimum I need to write. Otherwise, second draft's dead to me. Are the things I've left to schedule. Technically speaking, there's one shot that's not scheduled, but I can't schedule that until whatever's the last day of, until after the last update of the second draft, because that has spoilers for a route that was going to go in the second draft. And third draft has changed that so significantly. I just think it's safe to post, but I don't want to spoil anything for that. I hopefully will be having plenty of third draft content posted on DeviantArt in the form of the comic and reference sheets and maybe scene drawings. Family trees, I'm gonna be slow about because I need to figure them out as I go because I'm not even starting with the main series characters I think of. I'm starting with the prequel characters now, which is the whole thing in itself because most of those characters don't have names. Heck, There's characters that don't have names I'm gonna have to name. So if you want to name a character, go to my DeviantArt. Look at the characters that legit are just labeled so-and-so's parent or fighter or whatnot. If they're labeled rogue, don't bother naming them. They're not important enough to get a name. But if they're just labeled so-and-so's parent or sibling, they're safe to be given a name. Just note me. Don't use the chat that's used by spammers. Or contact me by commenting on this video. Like, hey, I want to name Ren's father Blueberry for some reason. I don't know. Or the other option is, I'll try to remember to make sure it's linked in the description. I have a Discord for the YouTube, which is labeled Forever Lost Productions. And if you want to, I will I'll make a channel for the characters that need names. And someone can reply, character needs names. And you want to name so character. And then that can be a thing as well. Trying to think if there's anything else. I will try to get more videos out in regards to Tales of Rhazie. It's just they're gonna be slow going, and technically speaking, videos like this are supposed to come on Saturdays. This is just a special occasion because it's the 10th anniversary. But anyways, you guys have a wonderful day or night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.